Howdy, hackers. Just like that, we are live. Welcome on into our Making Better Hacks Faster with GitHub Copilot stream. So for those of you who are coming in from the Discord, welcome. Hope you caught my announcement. Now, for those of you who are coming in from Twitch notifications or just popping in for whatever reason, if you would like to get swag points for attending this event, you will find those and the check-in link right down here. Let's go ahead and we'll do our Q&A at the end of the stream for this one. I've got just a slideshow and kind of technical stuff prepped for you. If you have more specific questions, feel free to drop a comment in the chat. I'll get to it at the end. Or if there's a natural breaking point, we can do that too. But I'm going to go ahead and add in my slides here really quickly. And we'll get those ready and set up and be all good to go. Hope y'all are doing well, having a wonderful day. I'm doing pretty swell myself. And there we go. Making better hacks faster with GitHub Copilot. Beautiful. Come on. Come on. We're going to give it a second to process. In the meantime, I'm going to bring the music back. So we have a little bit of nice, fun music in the background. I'm going to go for the rock one. There we go. One of my favorites. Beautiful. And just like that, our slides are ready and set to go. So we're going to jump right into making better hacks faster with Copilot. Let me go ahead and introduce myself to start. Hey, my name is Kari. I'm a coach here at Major League Hacking, and I use she, her pronouns. Fun fact about me, I have an airport ranking slideshow that ranks every airport I've visited in the last 10 years. There is about 40 of them. It's a really fun one. I love using it as an icebreaker at little events or at hackathons that I have to attend. It always gets people excited and very heated about some of their choices that I potentially disagree with. Either way, it's a fun way to get to explore some stuff, and it always gets me excited about going to a new airport if I happen to go to one for whatever reason. Upcoming new airports, we've got Montreal, so that'll be a fun one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into our topic. We're going to remove the check-in link from the banner here. If you need it, it's in the chat. I'll paste it again at the end as well. But this is a little conversation between us and GitHub Copilot. Welcome, MLH. I'm your Copilot. I'm here to help you get things done faster. I'm powered by AI, so surprises and mistakes are possible. Make sure that we verify any generated code or suggestions. And then this is a little chat with us and Copilot, right? What should we talk about in a presentation about getting started with GitHub Copilot at hackathons? As an AI programming assistant, Copilot has provided us with an outline for a presentation about Copilot, what it is and why would we use it, setting it up, so getting started with Visual Studio Code and the GitHub Copilot extension, and then an interactive tutorial using some of the features of GitHub Copilot, which is very, very fun. So, just in case you're not familiar, you may have heard of GitHub Copilot in the past, but it is an AI pair programmer that can help you write, debug, and understand code. So some of the questions that you can ask Copilot is create a new button component, fix my vars undefined, or explain. On any specific chunk of code, repositories ginormous, brand new, template projects, large-scale private repos, kind of whatever your heart desires. Not only that, right, but you can, similarly to any other pair programming assistant or AI tool, right, you can kind of tweak your questions to get specific answers, provide it feedback, and have a conversation where you learn from these tools, which is awesome. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of learn a little bit more about what our code does. Just in case you are curious, Copilot is built on OpenAI's GPT-4 large language model. So in case you've been using ChatGPT to, help you with your programming, I strongly encourage you Copilot is for that purpose, right? It trains on repositories, and think of it as more specific and more tailored toward that goal. So our next question is, why would we use GitHub Copilot? The goal behind this slide is to show you that we can gain back a little bit of time during the day as we utilize this super helpful tool, right? So we've got research from the GitHub team that looks into improving productivity, satisfaction, efficiency, and flow with GitHub Copilot as a tool. My personal favorite from here, right, is the focus on being more fulfilled with our work and getting faster at repetitive tasks, which are really important, right? You can gain so much more out of your day, as evidenced by all of these lovely stats. Hi, everybody. As evidenced by all of these lovely stats, right? We can get so much from this just by, using this resource, right? Less frustration with coding, more satisfying work, less repetitive tasks, 55% faster coding, and as I always like to summarize it, 36-hour hackathons become 24-hour hackathons, or in other words, you're gaining an extra 12 hours of hacking by using this tool, which, as we all know, can be super impactful at any event. So I'm going to take a quick sanity check here, check for any questions. In the meantime, I'm seeing lots of love and howdies in the chat. So I'm going to say hi back, give you all a minute. If we don't have any questions, we're just going to hop right into setup. And I'm going to get some links ready for us as well. All right. Let's see if we got anything. Just got people saying hi. I love that too. Sweet. All right. We got this very fun next step, which is going to be our setup of GitHub Copilot. So first, I'm going to go ahead and paste this link in the chat. This is our link to get the student developer pack. So if you are interested in the GitHub Student Developer Pack and eligible, please feel free to use that link right there. It has it's an expedited link just for our global hacking community that lets you verify your access a tiny bit faster, which, as we know, is super helpful, especially at an event. That being said, if you've redeemed this right now, you'll have access to it. It'll be great. You'll be sorted. We'll move on from there. That HackPack GitHub link is going to stay on the screen for a little bit as we begin setup. Now, I'd love to hear from chat for a second. Tell me what kind of programming tools you tend to use in terms of IDEs specifically. What do you tend to program in? How familiar do you feel with Terminal? Feel free to drop that in the chat. I'll talk a little bit about what I like. If you've been to any of my Global Hack Week streams, you know that I have a very soft spot for building out mobile apps. So I use Xcode a lot in my day-to-day work, at least in the mobile app land. When I'm not building iOS apps, I'm most likely building an Android app, which if I'm doing anything on Android specific, I'm using Android Studio, right, which is JetBrains Suite. Or if I'm doing something a little bit more out there, for me at least, and doing something new like Dart or Flutter, I tend to stick with VS Code, mostly because I sometimes decide very last minute what I actually want to use and what I actually want to build with. And VS Code is kind of a one-stop shop that I always have installed and updated and ready to roll for whatever my heart happens to desire in programming world. I am a big fan of WebStorm and Visual Studio. WebStorm and the JetBrains Suite in general is how I started programming outside of Xcode. I worked a lot with IntelliJ and then a lot with Sea Lion, and those I just kind of have a soft spot for. Their UI makes sense, and then now I use Android Studio. So I like how they all have their own separate space, but they all also flow together, if that's what you want. We got another fan of VS Code in here. Awesome. So lots of love. Luckily, we've got support for so many of are editors, right? GitHub Copilot lives where you write code. So you can use it in VS Code, Visual Studio, Vim, NeoVim, and JetBrains IDE out of the box, which is super helpful. You can really easily access it. You can also access Copilot as an extension to the GitHub command line tool, which can be really helpful when you're looking for anything that you might need. Not to mention too, that there's growing love and support for GitHub Copilot. So they're constantly adding and talking about incorporating it into other locations. And there's also third-party support where people that are just really passionate about this stuff are building out super cool tools. So just in case you can't find it on this slide, doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily exist. But these are the key big supporters of GitHub Copilot. So I would encourage you. I don't even think Vim users generally like Vim. Is Copilot still available after graduating? Yes, actually. There are a couple of things that I will mention for this. First off, Copilot is always available for any user of GitHub Pro, which is a subscription for just a little bit. I think it's about $9.99 a month, something like that, USD. However, if you are a student, this includes high school, college, postgrad, anything like that, a teacher, which I believe includes professors as well, or teaching assistants, adjuncts, things like that, or you have a popular open source project, that fee is automatically waived. So not only like for me, for example, since I currently teach, I have access to free GitHub Pro, which comes with the ability to use GitHub Copilot. So yes, long story short, lots of different avenues for GitHub Copilot and for accessing it, as well as free trials and lots of other things that you can kind of use it to try it out. So if you've graduated, no pressure. Like the pack that we offer, specifically the student pack, right? It comes from the GitHub Go student developer pack, but there's other means to access it as well, like that teacher method I mentioned, or if you have an open source project that is relatively popular, any of those work. But getting back into our section here, I'm going to drop the pack link back. I'm going to give you some time to install Visual Studio Code, right? If you want to follow along, and if you don't already have it, you can get it at code.visualstudio.com. I'm going to leave this link up here while we talk a little bit about VS Code and why we've chosen it. Specifically, VS Code, like we mentioned, we can use it with lots of different programming languages, thanks to this extension feature, right? Which is great tools for formatting, linting, code completion, and even more, kind of helping you develop anything and everything you might need. We also have built-in Git here, right? So lots of support from Git and great incorporation into GitHub, right? Pull, pushes, commits, merge conflict resolution, stashing, all of that is available straight in the IDE, right? Nice little UI based versus terminal, which can be pretty daunting without leaving your editor. We also have the ability to run and debug your code right from the IDE with the right extensions, or just kind of helping you get set up with whatever you need. And then finally, IntelliSense, right? So this is smart completions from your code based on the information that you have given it and based on the files that you're in. Not to mention that GitHub Copilot takes IntelliSense and as an extension improves on it so much. So lots of great features. IntelliSense is also used for like looking around your files, finding anything you might need. Also just kind of, creating a better developer experience, which is pretty much the goal. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and install our GitHub Copilot extension once we have VS Code. So I'm going to go ahead and also open up our lovely tutorial over on my screen here. and we're going to go ahead and code along together today. If I can give myself a second. Yes, got it. We're going to go ahead and open up VS Code. I'm going to try and share my screen. Perfect. There we go. Right. And we'll swap over from our slides as we need to here and there. So as you can see, I already have GitHub Copilot installed, kind of a little bit of a sneak peek. But what we'll do is we'll either use Control-Shift-P, right? Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P. So in my case, I'm going to hit Command-Shift and P and open up this new menu. And I'm going to look for Install Extensions, right? So we can see in Extensions, Install Extensions will take us right down here. If you're not like a command line type of person and you're like me and you like UIs, it's the extension tab right down here. And now you can see I've taken full advantage of all of my lovely GitHub, like all of my lovely VS Code extensions, right? I've got a Python debugger, Maven, and Gradle for Java, Copilot chat, right? Pylance, OCaml, Java, IntelliCode, right? Flutter, Dart, and everything that you might need. Now, what I'm going to do is restart all of my extensions super quickly, and then also show you what we'll do next, right? So if you don't have GitHub Copilot installed, in the extension tab, you would type in, right? Like I'm going to do here super quickly, GitHub Copilot. And that will take us straight down here to GitHub Copilot. And in your case, right, if you don't have this tool, you will hit this button right here that says install, right? In my case, I have uninstall and enabled and disabled the extension, so I do not have the button. Either way, it explains what you're kind of what the extension does, what you can accomplish with it, resources and next steps, and is a super helpful place to get anything done. So that is what I would recommend doing super quick. Now, the next step that you'll need, right, is anyone can install the extension, but you actually need to activate the extension, right? And so this is where we get into our Copilot individual, and specifically our Theory for Students, Teachers, and Open Source Maintainer section, right? So in here, this is our GitHub Student Developer Pack. So you have a chance to claim the GitHub Student Developer Pack and access dozens of professional tools for free while you're a student, teacher, open source project maintainer, as well as have access to GitHub Pro. So not only does GitHub, the Student Developer Pack, come with a free trial of GitHub Copilot, it comes with tons of other resources. I mean, they're honestly endless. There's so many different options. There are, like specific limits on repositories that are waived. There is access to different credits and resources. All of the JetBrains stuff is free in the pack, and MongoDB credits, like we mentioned in the chat. 1 year free to front-end masters potentially, right? So lots of super cool stuff that we can recommend in GitHub Student Developer Pack. So if you have not yet gotten the chance to claim it, make sure you go ahead and do that at hackpack.com/GitHub. You can find it right there. And that will take us straight into our tutorial for using GitHub Copilot. I will leave the Hackpack GitHub link right here. But if you need anything else, make sure you go ahead and pop it in the chat. All right. So our first step is going to be start a new project, right, in which we will be testing out these lovely GitHub Copilot features. So we're going to open a new project window here, right, and then select Clone Git Repository. So I'm going to share my screen, right, and within here, I can go to my Command Shift palette, right, Shift P, maybe clone. Go to File, Show and Run Commands, right, potentially. Or you can also use the menu up here. So open, right? That'll open up all of my files in here. But instead, let me go ahead and head on over to the clone repository section right here. Like I mentioned, I'm more of a UI person. So I'll clone from GitHub, right? And that allows me to just search for a repository name, right? We are going to search for MLH/Copilot starter. MLH/Copilot starter. Right? And I'm going to go ahead and just save that somewhere. We'll just pop it in my documents folder and then open it up. So I'll leave this step up here, right? We're going to clone MLH/Copilot starter, and we will find this menu by opening a new window, right? And then clicking clone Git repository. So there we go. I have it open now. Open the new window, clone Git repository, clone from GitHub, and then MLH/Copilot starter. It should show up right there, Copilot-starter. All right. Once we are done with that, we would have cloned our repository, saved it in a good location, and we will open the app.py file. All right. So if I open up in here, I've got an app.py file, which has 12 lovely lines of code with a variety of different information. Right. So straight up from here, based on your experience with Python, this may look super familiar, this may look brand new. It does not matter. We'll all learn the same thing and we'll learn it together. So what we now get to do is use Copilot to explain our code. So using Control-I or Command-I, we will open the GitHub Copilot window. And that will pull up a little chat menu in which we can type in / and explain. So I'll do that super quickly. Command-I and type in / explain. Right, and I'll specify the explain the code in the app.py file, but even if I hadn't said anything, it would have been able to do that as well. So it's going to use 6 different references and then comes back to us with an answer, right? It says certainly. Let's break down the code in the app.py file, right? It gives me a big file. First one, imports. It imports the main class from the Flask framework used to create a Flask application and some time-related functions. Specifically here, it's how we're going to get the current time. Then we create a Flask application, define a function called seconds since epoch that calculates the number of seconds since the Unix epoch, defined as January 1st, 1970. It uses time.time, my goodness, to get the current time in seconds since the epoch and returns it to an integer. It then defines a route for the root URL / when a user accesses the route URL, the seconds function will be called. Seconds, this function is supposed to return in seconds since epoch. Since I've highlighted only until seconds, this will cause an error. So it's already giving me feedback on how to fix this. So it's kind of getting ahead of itself a little bit. But I think this is a good example of us and segues it really well into seeing us actually run this code in action. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new terminal window, which you can use the starter, right, and then create terminal. Or for me, I just went on the top right-hand side, right, in my little menu tab and clicked on terminal, new terminal. Now I'm in here, right, in my Copilot terminal. And we can actually also ask Copilot to do something in the terminal. So in this case, we'll go ahead and launch our project, and maybe let's ask GitHub Copilot, how would I run this Flask project in my browser? So we'll ask it a question So they're saying to export Flask app equals app name.py and then Flask run. Okay. Let's go ahead and try. So it's not recognizing that. So let's try Flask run instead. See what happens. Not import /app name. Interesting. Either way, let's go ahead and open up our terminal window and using our actual suggestions, get started. So there's this fun command that I'm also going to type up in the chat here. So pip install -r requirements.txt. This makes sure that we have all of the necessary dependencies, specifically that we have the correct version of Flask. So I'm going to go ahead and run requirements.txt. And not found pip. Let's go ahead and try with pip3 since I'm running this on a Mac. That's much better. Beautiful. So we went ahead and just ran, right? So that's kind of a nice warning for y'all. If you are on Mac, right, you want to run pip3. Pip3 install -r requirements.txt. Now I've went ahead and did that straight in my file, right? And have installed Flask 3.0. So my next step is going to be to run this file, which I'll need to do the same thing. So on Windows, the command will be python -m flask run --debug. While on Mac, it'll be python 3 -m flask run --debug. All right, beautiful. So I will go ahead and switch over to this screen, run python 3 -m flask run --debug. All right, and we are now running this on a lovely server. So I'm going to go ahead and share a second one of my screens real quick. Get to look at my face for a second as we test this project out in here. And unfortunately, we get an error, which GitHub Copilot previewed for us a little bit earlier, if you got a sneak peek of it. But the view function did not return a valid response. The return type must be a string, string, dictionary, list, tuple of headers or status, response instance, or WSGI callable, but it was an int, right? So based on what I know about these errors, I personally know how to fix it. But let's say it's your first time ever writing Flask and you're just like, I have no idea what to do here. You could ask GitHub Copilot for help. So let's go ahead and take a look at our slides and figure out what sort of advice we could get. So there's a couple of great things that we can do with GitHub Copilot. First and foremost, we can try and actually have GitHub Copilot fix this error from us straight out of the box, which is personally one of my favorite features. So if I click, right, share my screen, open up my VS Code, I'll show you what this looks like. I will click Command I and type in /fix. That's it. That's all I need to do. And it will come up to me with a quick fix, right? The problem is that the seconds function should return a string, but it is returning an integer. Fix this, convert the integer to a string before returning it. Sounds good to me. So now, straight out, right? It converted this to a string correctly in Python, exactly how we needed it to, which is honestly perfect. So if I go ahead now and take a look at my project, right? and refresh the tab. See what happens. Look at that. We have our epoch time. So I'm going to zoom into this so y'all can see it. So this is the number of seconds that have passed since the epoch, right? As seconds pass, right? Literally, as we would look at the clock, as seconds pass, our number goes up, right? 804, 806, 807, right? If I click on it twice in 1 second, right, it doesn't go up. That is, GitHub Copilot just fixed a pretty big bug for us, right? Obviously, you know, it's not the most intense bug in the world, but if you have never done Python and you're not familiar with it, that can save you so much time. And that's it. So let's go ahead and walk through my personal favorite feature, which is the code completion and the auto suggestions, right? So this is where really that LLM aspect comes into it, right? You can talk to Copilot, ask it for questions and for advice. So I'm going to do Command I to open up my Copilot interface here and ask to add a route that shows the number of minutes since the epoch. All right, go ahead and type that in, press send. And immediately, right, it generates for me a minute since the epoch function and a corresponding route. Easy enough. Now you can see that clearly Copilot isn't perfect, right? These indentations aren't correct, but as programmers, these are really quick fixes. And this is why we still need to be familiar with the questions that we're asking Copilot. The beginner programmer would just be like, oh yeah, this will work, and probably get really confused. Either way though, what I do really want to show off, right, is being able to run this minutes tab, right? So if I go ahead and still have my slide running, right? If I go ahead and share that screen for you. The awesome thing is that you can still see our seconds tab, right? And our seconds are still going up. But if I now go to /minutes, this goes to our minutes section, which is awesome. And I refresh this as the clock hits the next minute. In about 15 seconds, you'll see that it goes up by 1, 2. We're gonna go ahead and wait here in hype mode. No, I typed into the prompt, just typed add a route that shows out minutes since the epoch. Just straight ask. And now you'll see that now this time is ticked over, right? Our clock will tick on over too. But I think that takes us honestly into a new idea of what we could do, right? Is do Command I, right? And add more routes that show the hours and days since the epoch, right? So I can go ahead and generate this, right? Go ahead and changes. I can go ahead and look through that, right? Click accept. Same thing. If I fix my lovely indentations, we all good to go. All right, so now we have an hour since epoch with the hours route and the days since epoch with the days route. Just like that. Except you didn't see it because I forgot to share my screen. Either way, asked it straight up to generate me hours and days, right? And now we can fix these lovely indentations. Rerun our project, right? It's automatically rerunning here in our terminal. Head on over to our browser tab. Once I find it. Head on over to our browser tab, share our screen. Right, and in here now we have our minutes tab, right? We could also have minutes, and that works. Right now it's gone up to 7. We have days, which we added 2016. 20,065 and hours, right? So as the time would tick over, right, if it changed now to 38, you'll see it ends at 18 right there. So we're seeing lots of lovely things, and an app with multiple function calls that we made in a few minutes, if that. So interested in more about GitHub Copilot? Here is my initial statement, which is, remember, GitHub Copilot makes errors. It's built on GPT-4. It sometimes writes bad code, and it won't understand what you want every time. But while it samples, it constantly updates and learns from itself and figures out new things. It doesn't always know about the latest libraries, APIs, or anything else that might be important or pertinent to you or your work. So just keep that in mind whenever you're using it, right? It's not perfect, but it is a super great resource that still requires you to read, understand, and edit the code you produce. Now, if you are interested in adding GitHub Copilot to your team, GitHub Copilot is here for you, and the entire Global Hack Week or hackathon, next hackathons, wherever you happen to participate it or need it. And it can do so much more with even more complicated code. Please feel free to keep Copilot pairing with you for the entirety of your Global Hack Week journey. And keep in mind, it's like having a little teammate on your side. A little secret sidekick just for you that can learn and help you through whatever issues you have in the meeting. And the best part is, unlike human mentors, they don't need to sleep, and they can try and answer your questions with feeling, which is super helpful. Now, if you're interested in any of these awesome resources, I'm going to go ahead and write them all out in the chat. So we have Hackpack, Copilot guides, right, for setting up and navigating the various functions of GitHub Copilot across all of the supported environments. Then we have Hackpack, Copilot examples, right, which shows you the practical examples of how GitHub Copilot can help you work. And finally, Hackpack/Copilot config, right, which is learning how to configure GitHub Copilot to your specific personal preferences. So Copilot guides, Copilot examples, and Copilot config are 3 awesome resources for getting you started on your Copilot journey. And we have a great contribution from the chat that GitHub Copilot is now updated up to October 2023, thanks to OpenAI's ChatGPT 4.0 model. So thank you for that. Last I heard, it was September. So it makes sense that the last time that I ran this workshop, it's been a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So yeah, being up to October makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and leave this Hackpack link up here while we wrap up our stream for today. I do not have anything else planned for you, but I am happy to hang out for the next couple of minutes, let you ask any questions, talk about anything that you might have on your mind. And I'll give you a couple minutes to think of those. And if we don't have anything, we'll go ahead and end the stream. I will just say outright, thank you all very much for watching and stopping by and coming to hang out with me, learn a little bit about GitHub and Copilot and all of the super fun things we have planned, which is really, really exciting. It is very, very cool to get to talk about this stuff. So I'm happy to be here, happy to be teaching about this stuff always, and happy to get to hang out with our global hacking community. I'm gonna give you another minute or two to ask questions. No pressure if you don't have anything. Just feel free to say thanks or bye, just so I know you're still there, that you're not hastily typing a question to let me get to it by the time that I head out. But if we don't have anything, then we don't have anything, and that's perfectly fine too. Ooh, does the predictive text let you loop through a few options, or is it just what they put up there? Can you write a comment where you want the code to kind of guide it, or would you use a prompt for that instead? No, totally. There's lots of different ways to interact with Copilot. So first of all, yes, you can loop through multiple options. The same way as with ChatGPT or any other LLM, you can refresh and try a different option. You can also tab through multiple options or like arrow through and then tab to select the one you like. You can, from comments, then generate code, right? Which is helpful. It just kind of depends on how you want to be able to use the resource. I remember in the early days of GitHub Copilot, it was more based on like auto suggestions for comments and filling out that sort of information, which is still really helpful. In my opinion, it's just that, as LLMs and these kind of like chat-based models have become more prevalent, GitHub Copilot has also introduced that user interface as people become more familiar with it, kind of giving you a chance to use both, which I think is really helpful. So yeah, yes, you can loop through a few options. Yes, you can write a comment to guide it. And yes, you can also use a prompt for it. So it's kind of the best of all of the worlds. So many different options for how you can use the resource. Hopefully that answers your question. If you got a follow-up, feel free to drop it. And yeah, that's a gregreat question too, by the way. So I'm happy that people are asking and excited about the tool. If you have anything else, just let me know. And I'm going to put the hack pack link back up because we love the hack pack link. Get your GitHub student developer pack. Ooh. All right. Gonna wait for another minute or so, see if we've got questions. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our streaming schedule, see what we've got coming up for people. We've got, a fun one. Emily and Wei are doing rejecting CSV and JSON, embracing the new world of Apache Parquet. I would no clue how to say that. But it's starting just right after this one in about 16 or so minutes at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern time. Good. Eastern time. Which is 7 p.m. Greenwich, right? Or 1900, whatever you happen to use. So if you are interested in joining that, I know Wei's streams always get a lot of love. Emily is one of our new coaches, so make sure you give her some hype too, which I think will be really fun. Yes, come to Emily's first ever technical stream for a surprise Pirates drop. There you go. What else do you need, right? You can just stop by, hang out with Wei, hang out with Emily for a surprise prize drop, and learn so much super cool stuff from both of them. I would look forward to it. I might stop by, say hi, hype them up, give them some love, and that's about it. Alrighty, my friends, if there's not any other questions, I'm gonna let Emily and Wei get set up and give you all time to get a quick breather, quick break, quick snack, whatever you might happen to need to hop into that next stream. And as a great reminder, if you're ever late, no pressure. Feel free to watch these back on YouTube. You are more than welcome to check in anyway. You're here. We're happy you're here. So go ahead and use the check-in link, right, for this specific event. You can also find it in the Discord once this one is done. That's it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and head off. Enjoy the rest of my day. I hope you do too. Say hi to Wei and Emily as you join their next technical stream. Cecilia and Jocelyn and Alberto and Ro and so many other people that we've got coming up with lots of really exciting Global Hack Week streams today. So thanks, y'all. And I am going to hop out right about now.